My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 64 fight card, giving you my picks, my predictions, and my DraftKings plays. But before I jump in, head on over to WeWantPicks.com and become a premium member. It is only $10 a month, and with that, not only do you get all of our betting and other content, but specifically for DraftKings, you will get ownership projections, points scored projections, you will get fighter rankings, and you will get our favorite dog, our favorite our favorite value, and the optimizer. Here's a screenshot of the optimizer. We're looking at it right now. All of this data, the projection data, the value data, the ownership, that will all be populated later today after weigh-ins are locked in. You come in here, you click a few buttons, you click generate, and this literally will build lineups for you. It'll build up to 150 lineups for you. You get all of that for only $10 a month. That's $2.50 a week. You have one mediocre lineup that covers months of membership, $10 a month, $2.50 a week. You get the optimizer, you get ownership projections, you get player rankings, you get everything you could ever need to build a winning lineup. Go to WeWantPicks.com, at the top, click Become a Member. So let's go ahead and break down this card. And opening up the card, we got Tamiris Vidal making her UFC debut. So no stats here. She is the favorite. She shouldn't be the favorite. Ramona Pascal, I think she dominates this fight. $7,700, she will be in my lineup. The reality is Ramona's a decent fighter. She's got good Muay Thai. She's starting to work in some takedowns. She got 3 against Nunes, 1 against Edwards, and she put up decent numbers. These are losses. I think both of them were short notice. She put up decent numbers, and Tamiris Vidal is not good. Not good. I think Ramona can win the striking. I think she can win the grappling. I think she wins this fight. $7,700. She will be in my lineup. Then we got Jake Hadley taking on Carlos Candelario. Jake Hadley, well-rounded guy. Works in takedowns, has solid striking as well. Is coming off a loss in his UFC debut against Alan Nascimento. That was a grappling loss. He was taken down, held down. I mean, that's all that was. He is fighting Carlos Candelario, who can strike as well, can grapple as well, but while Carlos is a dog, he had a 4-year layoff in his career. He just hasn't looked the same since then. So I think Jake Hadley gets this done because I don't think that Carlos can Alan Nascimento him, meaning I don't think Carlos is going to get the takedowns and hold him down for the 2 rounds that Alan was able to do. So I do like Jake Hadley to win, but I absolutely don't like him at the $9,200 because Carlos is stupid tough. I do not see Carlos getting put out. Then we got Johnny Munoz Jr. taking on Ludovic Shalinian. Johnny Munoz Jr., a solid favorite, which I guess I understand, but this dude was just lights out early against Tony Gravely. Nate Maness controlled him, beat him up as well in that loss. He's fighting Ludovic Shalinian. He's a good grappler. He comes forward with his wrestling. And, he's always looking for a takedown. He has that coming off that loss to Jack Shore. But, Jack Shore is very, very good. And, he pushed his own wrestling game plan. He defended the takedowns. And, frankly, I think that's how Johnny Munoz wins this fight as well. The same way Jack Shore did. Defend some takedowns. Get your own takedowns. Johnny Munoz Jr. is a BJJ black belt. Very dangerous on the ground. So I am leaning him to win this fight. $8,700 is a little tricky because do you think he's going to get the stoppage? Johnny Munoz Jr. should win this fight if he works in the wrestling, if he works in the grappling. He's got the BJJ black belt. He should win. 87, a little more than I'd like to spend, but he may end up being worth that. We got Polyana Viana taking on Jin Yu Frey. Polyana Viana, listen, she's, look at this. Kill or be killed. She's 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the UFC. Her losses are typically decisions, but her wins are submission. So she's literally submission or bust. She's taking on Jin Yu Frey. Jin Yu Frey is a tried and true vet at this point. And yes, she's had some close losses like Luke Boonmi, who she should have been able to bully and push around. The Kay Hansen loss is not a good look considering Kay Hansen's cut now. Demopoulos, that was a close fight as well. I think Jin Yu Frey wins this fight. I think she gets the cage control. I think she gets the takedowns. And I don't see her getting submitted by Polyana Viana. The problem is Jin Yu Frey doesn't really score that well. right? 65 here, 72 here. But I do think it's going to look like the DePaula fight. I think this is a ton of control time, a couple of takedowns. So I think she's worth it. I think she scores 70s, 80s. I don't think she's going to get a stoppage, but let's not forget, Polyana Viana has had some issues with travel this week. You know, she doesn't seem to be fully invested in everything. So I like Jinh Yu Frey to win this fight. I wish she was a little more affordable, but I do think she wins, and I think it's a ton of control time. And as we know, DraftKings scores that really well. Then we have Mario Batista taking on Benito Lopez. Mario Batista should be in your lineup. This dude is dangerous as hell. He can strike. He can knock you out on your feet. He can take you down and submit you like he just did to Brian Kelleher. And in his wins, he puts up very, very real numbers. He's taking on Benito Lopez. Benito Lopez has been away for 3 years. 3 years he's been away. Actually, a little more than 3 years. He's coming back. He's a real estate agent now. Similar to Al Iaquinta. What happened to Al Iaquinta after he came back from being a real estate agent? So I just do not see Benito Lopez winning this fight. He is dangerous. He comes out guns blazing. He will do anything for a finish, but his best days are behind him. I think he's showing up for a check. I just do not see Benito Lopez winning this fight. Mario Batista absolutely should be in your lineup. Miranda Maverick versus Shanna Young. I think Miranda Maverick dominates this fight. $9,400 is a shit ton of money, but she's probably worth it, and I think it may look like the Sabina Mazo fight. I think she'll get the takedowns and then ultimately get the finish, and she'll put up some very real numbers. Miranda Maverick is the real deal. She comes forward, she can strike, she can grapple, she can bully, and she has taken on Shanna Young. Listen, Shanna Young is solid. She's a decent fighter. She's got solid boxing. She's not afraid to fight in the pocket, but she can be taken down. She can be controlled. She's got some very real holes in the BJJ department. So I think Miranda Maverick dominates this fight, and she's probably priced appropriately. We got Shailan Nurdenbeek at $8,900. Another guy who should absolutely be in your lineup. And honestly, probably him instead of Miranda, because you get an extra $500 if you go Nurdenbeek. And he comes forward. He's an absolute powerhouse of a guy. He grapples heavy. He throws heavy. He comes forward. He's got that bully style, and he sets a really, really nice pace. And he's fighting Derek Minner, who's a workhorse guy, but Derek Minner just lost to Ryan Hall, and he wasn't even submitted. He had a terrible game plan. He was outstruck. I like Derek Minner's ability to push forward, ability to push a pace. Like what he did to Charles Rosa was impressive, but I just think Shailan Nurdenbeek is just going to body Derek Minner, push him around, throw him around, do whatever he wants to do. So Nurdenbeek's going to win this fight. He should be in your lineup. You probably can't afford him and Miranda, so if you go Nurdenbeek and Batista, you got some solid money left over for some of these mid-price underdogs. Then we got Grant Dawson and Mark Madsen. Grant Dawson's a big-time favorite here. I get it. Grant Dawson's very, very good. He can grapple really well. He's a strong guy. He averages almost 4 takedowns per fight, great ground game, and relentless pressure. The problem here is he's fighting Olympic wrestler Mark Madsen, and Mark Madsen can work in his own takedowns. Mark Madsen was also an underdog against Vince Pichel, and he came out there and he made it work. And frankly, I feel like Mark Madsen, he was an underdog. Yeah, he was an underdog against Vince Pichel. Same exact situation. And he went out there and he won that fight. And it was a great fight. He got the takedowns when he needed them. He had no problem in the striking exchanges. He beat Clay Guida with striking only. You see 0 takedowns. There were also 0 takedown attempts. Didn't even try to shoot. So Mark Madsen is very live in this fight. I'm not going to play either side of this, but if you need a good-sized underdog, I think Mark Madsen's a decent underdog to throw in there. Then we can go ahead and we got Tagir Ulanbekov taking on Nate Maness. This is the trickiest fight to break down on this card because Tagir Ulanbekov just lost to Tim Elliott. And frankly, you guys are going to say, oh, Tim cheated. Tim held the gloves on the ground. I completely agree. Some veteran savvy there, broke the rules technically, but holding the gloves on the ground did not prevent Tagir from wrestling. He only got 2 takedowns in that fight. He needed takedowns to lock in the rounds and didn't do them. And Tim Elliott got a bunch of takedowns. The grabbing of the gloves did not prevent Tagir from defending takedowns. So I know Tim Elliott grabbed gloves in that fight and he cheated, but that had nothing to do with Tagir not offensively wrestling and being taken down way too easily. And if you look at that fight in a silo, then Nate Maness dominates because Nate Maness is not going to play those games. He's going to come forward. He's going to wrestle. He's going to grapple. And I think I trust Nate Maness more to grapple than I do Tagir because Tagir just showed us he's not always going to shoot when he should shoot. Jacob's opinion on that was he learned his lesson. He's going to come out here, dominate, wrestle heavy. And if Tagir does that, he will win this fight. I think Nate Maness is going to win the fight because basically whoever comes out with the wrestle first game plan wins. That's the breakdown. I think it's going to be Nate because we've never seen Nate not do that. We just watched Tagir not do that. So I like Nate Maness to win this fight. Obviously, if Tagir comes out wrestle first, he's going to dominate the same way Umar Nurmagomedov just did. But I like Nate to get the takedowns, come forward, pressure. I think he's better than they're giving him credit for, $7,600. I may throw him in a lineup. Josh Parisian taking on Chase Sherman. Chase Sherman was typically a high-volume striker, right? 4 losses in a row. Not really a powerhouse guy. The TKOs here were just volume, right? Lots and lots of volume. But he did just knock out Jared Vanderaa, an actual knockout. And we got to see pieces of his power. He's the very slight favorite here. He's taking on Josh Parisian. Josh Parisian and Chase Sherman are basically the same fighter. Good volume, come forward, not just raw power, but good volume, come forward and can make something happen. The difference is Josh will shoot takedowns. 3 takedowns against Badeau. He took down Roque Martinez. In this loss against my good friend Parker Porter, he literally set with Parker the significant strike record. So incredible volume and works in takedowns. I think Josh Parisian wins this fight. I don't necessarily know if you need to have one of these guys in your lineup, but if he's going to be shooting takedowns, even without a stoppage, because Chase Sherman's a very, very tough guy, he could score really well, especially at that $8,000 price point. Then we got the co-main, Neil Magny, Daniel Rodriguez. Listen, tricky fight. Neil Magny's a very well-rounded guy. We've seen him outstrike. We've seen him outgrapple. He's well-rounded everywhere. I don't think he's super dangerous anywhere. He's not knocking you out on your feet. He's not really submitting you on the ground. But he's a workhorse guy with cardio for days that just doesn't stop pressuring and doesn't stop working. He's fighting Daniel Rodriguez. Daniel Rodriguez has very good takedown defense, lots of volume on his feet, doesn't really have raw power, but he does put up okay numbers. The problem here is Daniel Rodriguez, this fight has been rebooked. It's rebooked because Daniel Rodriguez had staph in his elbow. He is on record for saying it was very bad. So he admitted it was bad staph. When you have staph, you cannot train. There's not a gym on this planet that isn't rat infested that would let a fighter with staph train in that gym. It is very contagious. It is disgusting. It can get into your body. Google Kevin Randleman staph. And it's the most disgusting thing you'll ever see. That means he wasn't training when he had staph in his elbow. And that was already a short notice turnaround from this fight with Jing Lang. And then now we have it rebooked. I just don't think Daniel Rodriguez is going to be physically what he needs to be to beat Neil Magny. Full camp, 100%, no issues, no staph, not coming off a year, knee injury. Daniel Rodriguez wins that fight with volume and takedown defense. With the staph, the quick turnaround, all those things, I think Daniel, and he has got a baby at home. I got 2 kids. When they were babies, no way I could train the way I needed to for a fight. So I think Daniel Rodriguez loses this fight. He is a good size underdog. I know a lot of you love him to win this fight, and if you think that, grab him at $7,800. I do think he loses, but I'm not going to play Neil Magny. I don't think there's a stoppage here. I think Daniel's just going to slow down over time, and Neil will just pressure. Main event, Marina Rodriguez, Amanda Lemos. Listen, $8,800 is a lot of money to spend, but Marina Rodriguez is very good. She's well-rounded. She can work in takedowns when she needs to. She's got high volume, and she's got solid takedown defense. Very good technical striker. She's taking on Amanda Lemos. Amanda Lemos is the more dangerous fighter in this matchup. She can submit you. She can knock you out. She's got power. She's the much more dangerous fighter. And her takedown defense is spectacular. Even this Andrade fight, she was submitted on her feet because she didn't get taken down. But a lot of people think she lost this Angela Hill fight. She did lose the Andrade fight. And she did not look good against Michelle Waterson leading up to that submission. So I do think Marina Rodriguez is the better fighter over 5 rounds and will stick and move, potentially work in takedowns and win this fight. But Amanda is dangerous, and if you think she's going to win this fight, $7,400 is a great price, because if she wins, it will be most likely in the first 3 rounds, and she will most likely get a stoppage. So I don't know if I'm going to have either one of them in my lineup, because I do think, let's take a look. I do think Marina Rodriguez wins. And yeah, I guess she does put up decent numbers in these 5-round fights, 89, 85. But the reality is $8,800 is a lot of money when I could get Nerd and Beak at 89. And I think he's going to get a stoppage, right? So anyway, guys, that's the breakdown. Become a premium member. You get full access to the optimizer, full access to all of our DraftKings content, like the ownership projections, the player rankings, our favorite dog, our favorite value play, our best favorite, all of that, plus our bets and everything else. It's only $10 a month. If nothing else, it shows support for us and what we do. WeWantPicks.com. At the top, click Become a Member.